It's nice to meet you. That is, part of Europe. I guess originally that is something that I do miss that. It's actually the city. So I'm very familiar with it. So I was like outside. Generally,
and that's pretty much it.
Right.
All the other things.
Sure. Yeah. That's like where I was. Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
I'm so
The list was to say something. Where do we turn that?
sure, yeah, you can turn it to me and then I'll put it in.
And then are you going to give me an opportunity during 7 days?
Yes, sir. So it's actually like a number. So
Oh.
then all the details, right? You give the oh no, you got it. You got it. You guys have been on this so long. You got it. But you just give the summary. And then we'll invite for comments here that got it.
Oh, so I'll give my not your sis.
Correct. So you'll give your presentation first, but all the items, they'll invite you to the dice. So then they'll have their speech, and then they'll go to action and start with their presentation.
So yeah, let's do it.
It's a little different, yeah, a little different. This will be the public portion, and then that portion will follow. I won't. I got to do my mother's summer. She had a summer camp with my sister in the morning and then in the afternoon. We were together from what did you want for you? Pasta.
So I'm off.
It was kind of off work. It was kind of much. Thank you so much. I will file this.
Oh, it's
Let's call this to order.
We've got to get everybody to sit down, please.
Got a big agenda.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to Well, I don't have to call this to order. I already called this to order, but we're going to start the business portion of this meeting. Are we streaming? Are we streaming? All right, because it's showing the city website right now. There it comes. All right. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start with, we've already done roll call and we've done our training. So we are going to start with our public hearings. If y'all had wanted to speak at the public hearings, there's forms in the back. We'd appreciate you signing up for those forms. Signing those forms, so we'll have your name for the minutes. So we're going to go to item number 6A, public hearing 6A, Z2311. Request by Jesse Durden with Kept Property Group LLC to consider a conditional use permit per section 3.110 to allow for a condominium use for property located at one lot east of 591 Friendship Lane. Property is defined as German Immigration Company Lot 24. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Madam, I'll make a motion. We open public hearing number AZ2311.
I have a motion by Jim, a second by Tom. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Mr. Durden here is who's going to make. All right, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jesse Durden. My address is actually not Fredericksburg, it's College Station. So I'm not sure if it's relevant here, but 1555 Greens Prairie Road, College Station. Happy to be here tonight in front of you. For me, it's a little bit of a homecoming. I grew up in Comfort. I was born in Fredericksburg. My dad was born in Fredericksburg. My grandmother is from Fredericksburg. So this is our first opportunity to come back and present the community with a project that we think will be very attractive and also meet a need that's really desperate at this point. I printed some slides. I printed the slides. Can I hand those out? Or
Yes, sir.
okay. So happy to talk technical details if you have any questions, but just generally speaking, we're asking to do a residential condo project, individual detached units along Friendship Lane, basically right in front of the large Lennar development and right adjacent to Friendship Lane. We have 22 total units planned for phase one. As you can see, they're each standalone. They're not connected units. They're centered around a common area gathering space, which we think is going to be quite the amenity. We'll work with a landscape architect on that to design that. We meet all parking requirements. We meet all density requirements. So we think we have satisfied the city's recommendation or not make city's ordinance and are not making any requests for variance. Generally speaking, kind of some of the finer details of the project there. We're calling it the Alora May, which Alora May Hahn was my grandmother, so it's kind of an opportunity for me to honor her through that. They're small condos, roughly 950 to 1,000 square feet each. So we're talking 1 and 2 bedroom condos. They're intended not for short-term rental. I'm not requesting an STR permit. It's my understanding that if I wanted that, I would have to do that now, and I'm not doing that. I'm only asking for a conditional use permit to allow for the condo use. It meets all R2 zoning requirements, so we hope that we can get your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have 2 folks here who would like to speak for this. First one I got was Charles Frazier. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm the pain in the rear end. Sorry, I didn't know that was training.
Would you please come up and speak at the podium, sir?
Tell us your name and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, board, for letting me come up here. I understand, and I hope you're right that. Please address the board. Oh, sorry. I hope he's right
that we're not looking at short-term rentals. We have enough of that right now. We don't need any more. I don't know. I assume they have done their market analysis and they can fill these condos. I don't know what they're going for. Maybe 100,000, 200,000 a piece. Good luck. I live right by Friendship Lane. I don't need more development by us. This city was based on families, based on long-term people, and the short-term rentals, the tourists we have. My wife and I can't even go out to dinner anymore. It is just unbelievable. So everything we moved here for seems to be going away. I do appreciate that the local businesses are getting well by all the tourists that show up. But the local people that live here seem to be pushed aside. This town has gotten more into, I want to promote the tourist more than I want to promote our citizens. And I think that's sad. We're a people that have grown up here. There are many families that have had their roots here from multi-generations. Don't set us aside. Please understand, we are the root of the city and not the tourists. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Melissa Stout.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Melissa Stout. I'm local. I'm a broker with Three Outer Ranch Realty. I've been working with Jesse on this project for quite a while. One thing I think when he came to me wanting to find somewhere to kind of create something like this was, what does the community need? No desire for STRs. This is not an STR project. It never was intended to be and never will be. So he's always been focused on kind of what the community could use and what we needed. Something like this allows us for something a little bit smaller footprint that's a lot more affordable than really what you can get for anything on new construction. And I've kind of been a part in looking at comps and what we have and what we need, and been supported this all along. So just kind of here to give you that. That's short.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make comments on this item?
Move we go out of public hearing back to the regular session.
Second that motion.
Motion by Tom. Do I have and a second by Jim? Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. Let's go to action item number 7A, discussion, consideration, and recommendation for Z 2311 request by Jesse Durden with Kept Property Group. So Shelby, do you have any comments to make on this application?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And thank you, Jesse, for that summary. Staff has received a conditional use permit application to develop property that is an existing German immigration lot. The lot in its entirety is currently 5.34 acres, and the applicant is proposing to subdivide that lot into 2 lots, resulting in this lot, which is 3 acres, that'll be developed as part of phase one, and that's the application you see before you tonight. The applicant is proposing 22 one-story condominium units, 13 one-bedroom and 9 two-bedroom, the average square footage being 1,366 square feet. The project is not proposing sidewalks within the development, but it is providing centrally located green space that includes night sky compliant lighting, as well as visitor parking located within, centrally located within that development. The application is reviewed for its conformity with the site plan review criteria as well as the conditional use permit criteria. And as part of that, staff found that it meets the requirements based on the R2 zoning for density, for the use for parking, building coverage, development. They're proposing 22% with a maximum of 55% allowed. They fall within all of the zoning requirements. And park dedication would be required as part of this development at $500 per unit for a total of $11,000. And public hearing notices were sent out to any property owners that own property within 200 feet of this location. And as of June 1st, one letter was received in protest of this project and was included in your packet. I believe staff received one additional protest yesterday and have provided that to you for your review. As part of our conditional use permit criteria, there's 13 items that staff has to review, and staff has found that the condominium use aligns with all 13 of those items. In addition, the condominium use is a need for the city's diverse housing stock and offer a lower entry point for home ownership than single-family homes. As the applicant stated and was verified as part of the application, short-term rental use is not part of this request, so it would not be allowed at this time as part of this development. If that's something the applicant wanted, they would have to come back to the commission as part of an STR condominium request and request a conditional use permit for that use at that time. So right now what they're requesting for is single or condominium uses for residential purposes, not short-term rentals. So staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit with conceptual approval for the site plan, conditioned upon the following items: an approved site plan, an approved final plat, and a condominium plat, as a condominium plat would be required later, approved addressing plan, approved landscape and screening plan, and approved civil construction plans.
Just clarification, so the developer cannot convert it over to STR without reapplying as an STR compound. What about the individual condominium? Same scenario?
When they buy, these condos are for sale, correct? Okay, so I buy a condo, can I come in and try to get in? It's in an R2 area. Can I apply for a STR permit?
You can apply for an STR condominium through a conditional use permit
Okay, as an owner.
as an owner.
Okay, so we've got 22 owners here that could come in and say, I want to get an STR condominium.
Well, Tom, the fear is that somebody's gonna buy a block. So I say we figure out some way to issue this CUP with absolutely, but no STRs can be applied.
Ever. That would be, I think that my personal opinion is that when we get into comp plan, okay, the issue of condominium regimes, and the basis of a condominium is less land, closer together people. And that's exactly what we don't want with STRs. So it will be my recommendation, my thought, that when we get to the comp plan, that there be a provision that STRs be not allowed in condominiums in the city of Fredericksburg.
And that's something I'm sure that can be brought into comp plan. I'm more
Right.
concerned about this specific.
Well,
product.
I'm concerned about this specific. There are other concerns about this.
Can that be done?
The prohibition is part of the conditional use permit.
So I have a second question. It's about what's going to happen with lot 2, because we're approving this without any context on what's going on lot 2. So do we have any preliminary site plan for lot 2 to look at compared to this to see the overall density of both pieces together? Because it sounds like this is just phase 1 of a 2-phase development. So I'm feeling uncomfortable that I'm not seeing the full picture of a fully developed property and understanding the density and the traffic patterns and things like that. I'm only seeing half the project.
I don't think they have enough parking.
I have a question. On the last page, page 21 of our packet, in the project narrative, it says, and I quote, "This project will provide much needed affordable housing options to the city." So, can you tell us what these units are going to sell for?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm happy to answer that question with the information that we know right now in terms of comparable sales. For non-STR condo projects, essentially small footprints, you see around $300 a square foot. Shelby mentioned a 1,300 square foot size. That's the maximum building footprint. We'll have porches and things that will actually bring it down to the number for around 1,000. So we're looking at $300,000 for these units. They will be high quality units. That's what we've always done in terms of adding character, working with the local designer to bring that Fredericksburg look to the project. And if I may, I'd like to talk a little bit about the STR, and I understand the position you're in. Our plan is to restrict against STRs as part of the condo association. In condo sales, particularly when you're targeting owner occupants, you want to be a warrantable condo because lenders are going to look at you, and there's some requirements that you have to meet in order to be a warrantable condo. One of those requirements is you can't have in a project of this of this size, you could have own no more than 2 units. So one person could only own 2 units in this for the condominium restrictions that we intend to apply. Secondly, you can have no more than, or you have to have at least 50% owner occupants. So we don't intend want to deal with the management headache of STR folks, weekend tourists, right up against people that live and work here every day. The intent is to provide this to people that live and permanently reside in Fredericksburg.
Problem with that, sir, is what we've experienced in the past is that condominium regimes and condominium blocks change by mutual vote of the condominium association, whereas what we're requiring is a deed so that it goes in perpetuity.
Sure, and I'm open to that.
I'll just follow up what Mr. Giroux just said. You used 2 words in there that raise red flags. One is plan and one is intent, which at this point you're welcome to say that. When it comes time to actually construct it, that doesn't mean you come back and say, well, we plan to do that, but it's not required. We have seen that happen where you're told we plan to do this, and then when it comes to fruition, it is a different scenario than what was indicated to us.
I understand. And I think we'd have to come back. I mean, if there's substantive changes, if we want STR, I'd have to come show my face and beg for forgiveness and try to convince you at that point. But that's not what we do. It is a plan at this point. It's hard, I can't go and hire an attorney to create all the condominium association, prepare the deed restrictions, prepare the landscape plan, and then hope that I get permission to do this project. So I fully intend to do that. I'm here. My name's on the application, so I intend to stand behind that.
I appreciate your position, but what you are in fact asking us to do that staff has presented to us is basically a plan that is not complete. We don't know what you're going to do with lot number 2, and I don't think I am not going to vote for a blanket CUP without the full detail.
I think the CUP is just for the 3 acres.
Doesn't matter. This
Okay.
is your adjacent property, and we have to consider what's going on.
And at that point, we honestly don't know either. We felt like the palatable number of units for this phase was 22. Let's figure out if this is the right product for the market, that we can get that target market that we're looking for. And then we'll attack the remaining 2 acres. But we really didn't want to project out that far. We felt like it was irresponsible to do at this point in the project.
And what I'm telling you is that I am personally not comfortable with allowing you to do that without knowing what's on market. Because if that's the case, then you don't need to bring a CUP request to this board, staff to do it, because that's what they've already said. Here it is. We'll do all of this stuff that they say on the bottom of the staff recommendation: site plan, final plat, addressing plan, landscape, and civil construction. You'll do that all after we give you the CUP. And CUPs are designed, in my opinion, and I think by definition, to take care of special circumstances that do not necessarily fit our normal, regular zoning requirements and building codes.
So Tim, would it be different if somebody else owned that property?
The adjacent property.
Yeah. Would you then approve it? I mean, I guess it's,
So I'll append your question with
Yeah.
another question. Are these two separately platted pieces of properties, or is it a single piece of property?
It is still one single piece
Okay.
of property.
Yeah, so that's why it's raising a flag for me, is if you're only gonna bring the CUP for the first phase of development, but this is a single platted piece of property, the CUP covers the entire platted piece of property, doesn't it?
That's right.
It
And that's
would.
the
If
issue.
we
We
pass
don't know what
it,
he's
it
asking.
covers,
Which
this is a
is,
single piece of property. The CUP covers the entirety of the property.
which in this situation, is German immigration law.
Yeah,
It's all
so-
5 acres.
So putting the line in here and saying there's two separate properties, well, by the plat, they're not. It's one piece of property, so what we approve applies to the entirety of this single piece of property. Now, if you want to replat it, split it, and then have us approve a plat for lot 1 for you for the condo scheme, and then come back with a separate project for the platted lot 2, that would make a whole lot more sense to me. But asking us to CUP an entire piece of property for only one half of it being developed now, it just leaves us in a strange situation.
Sure.
That's not.
I understand it, and that wasn't our intent or my understanding.
I understand.
And we have
that's why
filed.
I'm asking the question about the platting on it, because if they were two separately platted parcels, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We'd be only looking at parcel number 1.
It's currently unplatted. We have submitted a plat for 2 lots. So with that represent this dividing line. I understand the comment about the German immigration district.
Yeah.
That wasn't my understanding.
I don't feel comfortable voting on a CUP until the lots are separated out, and then we're only dealing with a single lot, and the single CUP only applies to that piece of property.
Because we can see what we're getting.
Well,
Without a
also
blank
just
piece of paper.
I don't like an approval bigger than what we're, that encompasses more than what we're dealing with, and then we don't know what's going to happen on that other piece. It's all platted. That's my discussion.
Yeah, marketing doesn't work on what we're seeing in front of us, then you're gonna change your plans. You
sorry?
look at the second portion based on what's marketed. So the CUP doesn't even work.
It was not my intention to apply the CUP to the remaining 2 acres. It was not my intention nor my understanding that's what we're doing here tonight.
But
I'm wide open to any restriction that holds it against this 3 acres. That was my understanding. The purpose of the concept plan was because you guys want to know details about the area that we're asking for a conditional use permit. So I'm showing you the details about the area that I only intended, the 3 acres for the conditional use permit. So if there's any amendment that can be made to the size based on this plan or anything, I'm wide open to that.
So let me raise,
Legals.
I'm going to raise the question that is for every development that we're facing on Friendship Lane. I mentioned that I don't think you have enough parking. Okay, and the reason that I don't think you have enough parking is you've got 22 condos, some 1-bedroom, some 2-bedroom, but I think you need, and then you're saying that you want 22 guest spots. Well, in my book, the 22 condo with the 22 units would need, you'd need more parking, because if you've got a couple that's living in a 1-bedroom unit, they're going to, nobody drives and has one car anymore. So you're going to need 2 spaces, a minimum of 2 spaces for each unit. And so we're looking at another 66 cars coming in and out every day onto probably the second busiest street in the city of Fredericksburg. And that's another discussion that we need to have about what we're going to do about Friendship Lane. I would think that you need to add some parking. This might, according to the regulations, this might be all the parking that people that's required by the city. But I personally don't think you're going to have that you have enough parking. And how wide are the streets?
I believe these are 50-foot wide. No,
26.
26. I'm sorry, 26 wide.
26 feet.
So, Mick, is there any remedy to letting them go ahead and saying this CUP is just for that portion of it, if it's in one lot? Or does he have to get the plat? Does he have to get them subdivided and come back?
I'm sorry, it's not required as part of this application.
So if we approve this, could he expand into the second lot? If he has a cup for a condo project here,
Yes.
could he increase the size of the condo project into the other?
Well, what you could do as far as a remedy is require him to come back if it expands beyond the footprint shown on your.
Well, he has to bring us the final plat.
Yeah.
He has to bring us the final plat.
Issues, prelims and finals.
I suggest you just make that a condition. One of the conditions is that if the project exceeds the footprint shown on this particular submission, that they have to come back for second approval.
The second approval of the first project, or second approval of whatever's going to do?
Whatever the new project is, whatever expands it.
But what about our question or our request to deed restrict it from SDRs?
Well, we can enforce deed restrictions, and the state doesn't really give us that power to do that. We can make that request, but I don't think we can make it an actual condition.
Can you make it a condition of the CUP? If the conditional use permit is prohibition of STRs.
Yeah, I think you can do that
as a
CUP condition.
And how long does that CUP then? So they get it built and
attached to property.
The CUP is good for 2 years. They have 2 years to develop the project and obtain a building permit. If that doesn't happen, the CUP goes away.
right. But the issue is, let's say that
Once it gets developed.
he gets it developed. Okay, who enforces the non-STR aspect of this? Staff, which means what? Code enforcement.
Well, when they make an application.
Okay, so they wouldn't get permit. Okay, would not issue a permit.
So if it's attached to the CUP and he develops it, then it becomes part of our record that if there are any applications from that location, they're not.
So then we're gonna.
I'm looking at our attorney.
Right, they would have to come back to get your approval to put in an STR.
So in other words, a future board could approve an SDR permit.
Well, that's always true.
I need to make one comment for the record. I do want you to know that Mr. Durden reached out to me personally to give his little pitch on this project about 2 days ago, and sent, I think we all got that attachment, but he also sent that to me. So I just want that on the record. Thank you.
Circulation also came up, and I've spoken with the city engineer because he is showing 2 lots that have not been created, and the access onto Creek Street is going to be important. And the access point now on Friendship Lane is not what was approved for the Seiko development. It's supposed to be a shared access point with the Seiko development, so that it might actually change the layout of this.
So I have a question on that. With the Seiko development, I don't know that, my recollection is that our agreement with Seiko didn't have Mr. Kremley's property in it at that time. The entrance to Seiko is as far as I remember, the entrance to the Seiko project is the existing gate that's on the other side of.
We have the, we have the plat for the Seiko one, the site plan for the Seiko one.
Not with this current, but this corner is particularly complicated in that it's bordering a couple of different developments that have previous agreements and things going on. So for the Seiko piece that we mentioned, their third phase driveway is all the way over up against this shared property. So as a requirement for the approval of the location of that driveway, they had to offer this property an access easement to place that driveway there. Because as it's currently shown, this driveway cannot have full access based on that space. They have the ability, though, through that requirement, to utilize Seiko's driveway for a full access driveway. This potentially could be a restricted access, like a ride-in, ride-out type of access. Additionally, the turning lane improvements for the Friendship Oaks subdivision also impact the frontage of this property, in that the taper and expansion, widening of Friendship Lane for that turning lane will extend past this property. So that's another reason why this particular location would probably be a restricted access. So I realize that this is just conceptual right now. They're still going to go through the site plan process. They're still going to go through civil construction plan review. All that will be reviewed as a part of that. So I just want to make that clear.
So you're saying that entryway is going to have to be moved, and so that'll change the whole.
Moved or restricted to a ride-in and ride-out.
And then would he be able to get another access point for an additional, if he decided to do something similar on the next piece of land there, the rest of the plot? Would you just be extending your interior circle and not have another egress, or would he be allowed another one on Eagle or Friendship? I'm sorry, he's not on Eagle, on Friendship.
Any new access that he proposes would have to comply with the access standards in our subdivision.
Right, because there's
We think it'll be on Creek Street,
on Creek. Okay.
and we will need a second access point after 30 units. Fire code.
Was everybody feeling going? Everybody ready to make a motion? Questions answered? No questions?
So two things, Tom brought up parking. It seems to me like the green belt in the center would be an ideal place to slot a few more of those into the public building if that is a requirement. And the second thing you mentioned was the STR restriction. And the third thing is that this CUP can only be approved. You know, we get to look back, we get to look again at the
Right. Is there a way to craft the CUP to where it only covers, I know what you're asking me. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Just a sec. I'll get it in just a second. That the CUP approval only applies to that 3-acre portion that we currently see in on here, and that our CUP approval does not apply to the phase 2 acreage. And if they expand into that phase 2 section, then it's all got. I don't know how we draft that or say that, but a little help with language would be useful.
As presented.
represented this evening.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's in the record and in the minutes, so when we have to come back and look at it and think what we approve and how did we approve it and what did we say, that it's perfectly recorded that we only intended to cover the phase one portion as presented, and the CUP does not apply to phase two.
Sure would clean up everything if we were dealing with two plats.
I know, two plats would clean it up.
The site is complicated enough as it is with all of the development that's going around. And if we start approving CUPs for unfinished projects, we're going to be in trouble in the future. It does not make sense to do it now. If he really wants it the way he wants it, then he can go get it platted in two spots. And that will solve everybody's problem, because then you're going to get into engineering with Creek Street and all of the other complications that go along with it that are unknown at this time.
We are working through that right now.
I
We submitted our
understand you are,
plat.
but we don't know anything about what's going on with that.
I understand.
And we will ask, somebody's going to ask us to approve it. I move we deny it as presented.
All right, a motion by Tim to deny. Second by Mr. Thomas. Any other discussion?
Roll call vote, please.
Any other discussion? All right, Mr. Booth ask for a roll call.
Jim Jerome.
No.
Daryl
No to
Whitworth.
denial or no to the CUP?
No to the CUP.
So yes
So
to the
you're
denial.
voting
Yes
aye
to the
to-
denial.
Yes,
My motion to deny. You say aye.
Yes. Aye. C.
Daryl Whitworth.
Aye.
Jeff Lawrence.
Aye.
Cindy Scroggins.
Aye.
Tom Musselman.
Aye.
Holly Rickert.
Aye.
Tim Dooley.
Aye.
Steve Thomas.
Aye.
Janice Menke.
Aye. All right, the motion has been denied. We really want to see this project, so we'd love for you to get this plot done and get them platted differently and come back to us, because it's a good project.
May I ask about parking? Just, I want to be able to meet whatever requirement you think is appropriate. I don't want to guess.
okay, my issue there is that with the parking standards that we have on the books, they are the bare minimum, and you're going to have in any development that we have now, everybody's doing bare minimum, and that's what's required. But we live in a society where people have folks to come over to their houses. We live in a society now where there's usually a minimum of 2 cars per household. And so I would think that with your 1 bedroom, you're going to need parking for 2 cars minimum for your 1 bedroom and 2 cars minimum for your 2 bedroom, which increases, I think increases the number of spaces to like 60 from 53. And I think you've got the room, at least in your circle. You could put more parking in your circle and have plenty.
That's a simple fix, really.
That's a simple fix.
So no, it's still egress on renting.
Well, that's it.
They're saying.
Will the city approve another cut?
So,
Yeah.
Right, and part of there is an access easement there from the neighbor that was never agreed to by the seller that I'm purchasing the tract from. So it exists today. It's not constructed. My understanding is that plan has been approved for quite some time.
No.
So part of our concern is that it hasn't been built and then it wouldn't get built and potentially it would hurt our project. But we'll continue to work through it in engineering with city staff, for sure.
I would ask that the planning department, if there was an agreement between Mr. Needham of SECO and Mr. Krenwoge for a shared access point north or west of the bridge, that the Planning and Zoning Commission be made aware of that shared access point. My understanding, I don't remember there ever being there was a lot of discussion about SECO moving, having their access on the other side of the bridge, but I don't believe there was ever any final action on that. It was always a point of discussion.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Jesse.
And I guess for staff, it'd be helpful next, if it comes back, to kind of give us what's on that SECO side and get us back up to speed on where the agreements are and what's going on with that so that we have a little broader picture of footprint and how it impacts it. So that would be
There's a lot going on that school. And
Just curiosity, city staff, do you have a potential bill made in South Beach? I'm just thinking it might be easier for the developer just to drop this whole
Creek
project
Street
off
off,
the South Creek.
off Friendship.
8 and 7.
Just flip it.
Yeah,
Well, it might be.
flip it around, do it from the end.
Has everything to do with driveways.
Right, that was off point.
all right,
Madam Chair,
let's go to item number 6B, public hearing Z 2312, request by Kevin Spraggins with BEI to consider a conditional use permit for section 3.210 to allow drive-through or drive-in facilities for property located at 720 South Adams Street.
Chair, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
All right, I have a motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Well, I have, oh, Tom. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. All opposed? Mr. Spraggins? You have the
Thank
floor.
you. Thank you, everyone. Kevin Spraggins, VEI Consulting Engineers. Also, here tonight, we also have the real design team, Leslie Spraggins with Redbird Design, and Brandon and Randy with SKT Architects. So this is a multiple things. This is a site plan approval. This is a conditional use permit approval. And this is approval for the corridor standards. So the only reason that this is a CUP approval request is because of the drive-through. So we are wanting to move our cleaners location. So this is personal for us. This is our building. So this is a building that we are going to do and wanted to do and looking for the right location. And so we are moving the cleaners to, I don't know if you have, you can see the site plan that's up there. We're moving the cleaners to the end building where you have the drive-through location on the end. On the end here, you can see that. We also have the where regular traffic can get around that, and so we're looking at doing VEI upstairs on part of that, right above the cleaners, and then part of VEI in the print shop bottom portion. So the rest of it, we are looking at filling the professional need upstairs. So you're familiar with that as far as putting office, the title company, or there's lawyers, or there's architects, or whatever upstairs. Retail is what we're planning for right now on the bottom. We meet all the criteria that is required for a site plan. Staff has also approved us as far as corridor guideline standards, and we're very proud of the elevation, and it looks really nice. And now we just have to go get it done. We're asking for y'all's approval. And also, obviously, if you want to talk architecture and elevations, then you don't talk to me.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who wants to make any comments on this request? All right, I'll entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
We go out of public hearing.
Motion by Tom, a second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, here's we'll go to action item number 7B, discussion, consideration, and recommendation of Z 2312, request by Kevin Spraggins. All right, Anna, are you going to talk to this one?
Yes, I think Mr. Spraggins did a good job summarizing. So we are doing a site plan for the CUP for the drive-through and entry corridor and site plan. met all the requirements for the entry corridor. One thing you'll notice is, one of the requirements is that parking be in the rear. However, there is a park or an access easement on this property because of the accessibility to the neighboring properties. So that goes through the front, and so that impacted where they could put the building. So that's one of our general comments for the entry corridor, but it's definitely in keeping with the other properties that are already developed there on either side.
Do they happen to line up?
They do. So you have Happy Bank with the drive-through. You have Guadalupe Bank with the other drive. Okay. So then when Guadalupe Bank did their entrance, they did an entrance for both properties, basically, and they did an access easement that is supposed to line up with the pavement for Happy Bank. So that drove, everything as far as here's everybody's drive-through, here's how we need to align our stuff, and it drove, what we needed to do. We also wanted to put, our vehicles, some of our survey vehicles and things like that in the back in a covered area, and so that's hidden from, front view, and feel like that was useful.
So the only other comment staff really had was parking and impervious cover. Right now, they're at 79%, and the max is 80%, and they are reaching that 79% by providing pervious pavers in certain locations. And with the parking, they did the ratio based on general retail and personal service. So any other allowed use may have a different parking ratio. So that's just one thing we want everyone to be aware of.
We
If the parking might be different if a restaurant or different type of use were to go in there.
It has to follow the code.
Say again, Joe?
It has to follow the code, whatever the code is,
So Kevin, if you put on the odd chance that another restaurant would want to come in town or a cocktail lounge, you would be required to have that would mean that you would have to have more parking,
yes.
and it won't fit on this side.
Right, we would have to, well, no, because part of that space would be taken up. So if you do a restaurant in some part, well, that's where retail is going to go. So then, yes, we would have to do some more storage. We would have to do something to make sure they had enough parking for the code. So we don't get to have the retail in that space if it was supposed to be restaurant and then over park it. We have to comply, and that's always
Right.
the way we have.
So
To compensate somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Through a parking agreement, maybe with a neighboring
Could be.
property owner, a bank that's shut down at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
So Kevin, how did you plan the drive-through as far as stacking for dry cleaners?
So we only have, we don't have a drive-through right now.
Right.
And so you only have maybe 3 people tops that you're going to have. I mean, you can look at our Sidney Baker location that has a drive-through, and, you have 1 or 2, at 5 o'clock. So we have, plenty of room there. We have, 3 or 4 spaces for people to stack in there, which is, over what we can even dream that would be. So.
Just from a CUP standpoint, this CUP is exclusive for this drive-through for this use, correct?
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure.
So it's, yeah, let me ask it twice, just to make sure it's clear. He's asking if that drive-through is only for that specific use, which is a laundry.
Correct. That's what
So
the applicant
if somebody
requested.
comes in with a quick service, no laundry goes in there, and a quick service restaurant wants to go in there because it's got a drive-through.
They would have to come obtain their own CUP for that use at that location.
And that would trigger additional parking.
Well, it depends on what it is.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure that it's not just a blanket drive-through approval for any use.
Yes, ma'am. No, the use was noticed specifically for this use.
So we have to have 3.
And so this is also a site plan review at the same time.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's a
The final-
CUP, a
it's
site plan,
and a
and
final,
corridor,
the final site.
Yes, ma'am. And entry corridor.
and entry corridor.
Do we need to make 3 motions or just one?
Well, it's only listed as a CUP. It's not listed like that in the agenda.
Nick,
Make one before you can do it.
I move we approve it as presented.
With the conditions,
Yes.
approved addressing plan, approved landscape and screening plan, approved civil construction plan. I'll second.
A motion by Tim, a second by Tom. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm just disappointed that you didn't have to pay somebody.
I did. You don't think those guys are charging me back there?
Well, yeah, yes, they are. But then you didn't get your money's worth because they didn't say
Well, I know. I was thinking they'd say something. But you went through the whole meeting and Randy said nothing, so I.
We
That's
haven't
all.
over yet. Is he charging you by the word like a lawyer? Exactly. You guys have to get out of here before 9.
We brought snacks, so we're good.
All right. Let's go to action item number 7C. P 2308, request by Brian Sherab, that's right, with Dunway Associates LLC to consider a preliminary plat for the Moose subdivision at Highway 290 West and US Highway 87 North.
Howdy.
Good evening.
I'm Brian Sherriff with Dunaway Associates. I'm representing DC Partners, the landowner that has purchased the 21 acres there at US 87 and 290 behind the gas station. They purchased the property. I think they have spoken with the city way before I was even on board because they had interest, as have other people, in trying to develop this site in accordance with well, not exactly in accordance with, but they understand the city's desire to want a little bit more hotel space and convention space, and this has been the site identified for it. This is part of the plat that we're considering, I'm asking for consideration on tonight, is really the first step of several steps that we're going to go through. I believe the date is being set in August that we're going to come back with considerations to amend the PUD. Staff has worked really well with the overall design team regarding what the city's expectations are, and the design team is working to try to fulfill those. So anything that's use related or density related is not being considered as part of the plat. Any amendment there to the PUD will be considered separately. So the impetus in looking at this plat this evening is this is the first step that we need to do to kind of clean up the property. Currently it is 7 lots, and the owner will ultimately operate this as one lot with residential, commercial, convention space, and other uses that will be approved a little bit later. We've met with city staff as far as the expectations regarding utilities, providing utilities. We've submitted a traffic impact analysis to evaluate the driveways that are proposed. They don't show up on the plat per se because there's not an easement per se, but along 87 it'd be limited to 3 driveways and 1 on 290, which is very similar to what used to be on the Seven Hills site when that came through last time. So with that being said, this is kind of the boring part, and the interesting part comes later. So I'm very open to entertaining any questions Judge Hall might have on this plat, or to the degree that I know on future uses.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anna? Which one of you? Shelby's going to do this one?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Brian. As Brian had mentioned, this property probably looks familiar. It's part of the previously considered Seven Hills development. A portion of these properties were annexed and zoned in 2018, and a preliminary plat was approved in 2018 as part of the previous development. That has since expired, and a new owner has taken over the development and has new plans. As part of that, we need to plat the properties. Currently, there are 8 properties that exist across 22 acres, and we want to plat those into one. And this is the step for that. So as part of the process, this preliminary plat is required, and it does not follow the previous 3-lot configuration that was approved for Seven Hills. They are proposing 1-lot configuration. The tract size is 22 acres. Roadways will not be created as part of this plat. Utilities are available to serve the property. Standard easements such as utility and drainage will be in accordance with the city subdivision ordinance. Detention will be addressed as part of the construction plans. There is a requirement for park dedication, $500 for the 1 lot. And staff recommends approval.
I know you looked at me when you said that. Thank you.
Approval of civil construction, conditioned upon approval of civil construction plans, approval of a final plat, approval of the PUD amendment that we hope to see in August, approval of a developer's agreement, and approved addressing added to the final plat prior to recordation.
Thank you, Shelby. All right.
So explain to me why we're doing this, because so we've had one developer come through this piece of property and then not do it. And now we're going to make it into an even bigger single parcel. We were chunking it down into 3 the last time. Now we're consolidating down into a single parcel. So if this developer doesn't develop it, we have one honking 22-acre parcel that we have to deal with. Or does the plat expire after a certain period of time and it remains the 8 parcels that it currently is? So what happens?
The preliminary plat's only good for 2 years. And currently, it is 8 individual lots on its current configuration, and not all of them are platted. So this is the step that's needed to make it one property, so we can move forward with additional development plans.
But if we approve this, it's only good for 2 years. So if they in turn don't develop it, it expires, and the 8 lots are still there. So
Yes,
it can
ma'am.
still be broken up into 8 separate lots and handled as smaller parcels individually under different plans, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not going to be stuck with a white elephant 22-acre lot sitting at the west end of town that has to be done in one chunk, and then you're stuck with only big developers coming in trying to do it. I want to make sure it can break back down and we're not getting ourselves caught in some massive parcel that we don't know what.
Correct. And even once preliminary plat approval is obtained, they would still have to return for final plat approval. And even at that time, it wouldn't be official until that plat is recorded.
Just want to make sure we're protecting ourselves.
Does the PUD zoning carry forward from one owner to the next?
Yes, sir.
So unless they want to build the exact same thing as before, they've got to come in with the changes that they want.
Yes,
the existing PUD.
So
Because it's not quite like what we had the first time tonight, but it's fairly close. Because what they're asking us to do is approve something without any plan.
Well, just the consolidation.
You're basically asking us to wipe the slate clean and have nothing but one clean slate.
In order for us to turn the plans in, we have to go through this step first. And they then have to approve the plans, as well as the PUD, which is the all that. So this is step 1 for us to move forward to that next step. And then nothing happens. This document is not filed at the courthouse. It just stays in city records for 2 years. So if nothing else happens after that, it's just paper in PDF trash can, so to speak. But we've got to get this done to get to the next step.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, this one's pretty simple. When you're looking at map, the city zoning map, there's a hatched out area. Is that the home showing there? And why would that be hatched out? Is it historic property or is it hatched out?
Yes, the Klinger-Haber house is a landmark.
Anyone else? Questions, comments, motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by
With
Jim,
staff recommendations of approval of civil construction plan, the final plat of the amendments, developers agreement, and addressing the initial final plat prior to the recording of the plat. Second.
is that Daryl? Motion by Jim, second by Daryl. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Did you get that one, Michelle?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
All right.
you.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right, let's go to action item number 7D.
Madam Chairman, I will recuse on this item.
All right, thank you, sir. Site Plan 2305, request by Kevin Spraggins with DEI to consider a site plan for modular multifamily development located at South Eagle and Friendship Lane. Mr. Spraggins, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So this project is on the corner of South Eagle and Friendship Lane. And I want to make sure that everyone understands that this is a site plan approval agenda item, and that we meet all the criteria for the that has been that is in the code for site plan approval under the. Okay. I also would like to make sure that I have some copies. I want to make sure everybody knows a couple of things. One, I want to make sure that everybody understands the zonings that are on the tract and the surrounding zonings. And I want to make sure everybody knows what has been approved in the past surrounding this tract and on this tract. So if y'all would let me do this, I would like to, too many clips here. This is the I'm green. Everybody has approved before on the track. That's the apartment complex that was approved prior to this project. So I want everybody to see that. We want to see the mechanical project is our next site plan that has been approved. I don't know the building stage of it. Y'all may know what stages of it, but I don't know where they are exactly. So starting with zoning, this tract, because I read staff's recommendations or their discussions, and while we do meet the criteria, they had some discussion about the surrounding areas and things like that. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that around and on this tract is R2, which can be 2.5 story zone, and that on the corner of our tract, it's C1 office, and in C1 office, what's allowed to go on that track is daycare services, medical services, multifamily, professional offices, churches. It looks like even, well, you have to have a short-term rental permit, but corporate housing. So an office, complex could go on this tract. A minor emergency could go on this tract. Different professional offices, a church can go on this tract. A daycare center can go on this tract. And so I just wanted to make sure everyone knew what could go on the corner, and that 2.5 story is allowed in R2. And this property is, this development is requesting and is shown to be single story. So,
Kevin, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I'm not supposed to ask questions, but on this that you handed out, what color are we looking at? Which particular one? Is it this red corner, the tan one?
so we are too. We are both. So the corner, if you look at the site plan, the far corner, which you don't have, you have a say. You can look at this. See this previous development that was done? You can go to your packet, or you can look at the previous. This tract right here is the C1 tract. Okay, that's what's shown on your zoning is red. The rest of it is R2. Everything around it is R2. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up is the development that was previously approved and what was approved next door. So previously approved on this tract, this subject tract, was 152 units. It's 11.37 acres, which gives you a density of 13.37 units per acre, and it was two-story. Okay. Next door, Botanica, another approved site plan, is 144 units, 13.79 acres, and is 10.44 units per acre. So 13.37 density and 10.44 density. What the developers, and I did not introduce them, I'm sorry, they're here today to answer any questions that y'all have about the development. But the current request for site plan approval is 107 units, 11.37 acres, which gives you a density of 9.41 units per acre, and it's single story. We also have a landscape plan that we've shown, the drainage plan that we've shown, and the utility plan, and we basically followed what was approved. Because of the way the topo is, detention needs to go in the far corner. And utilities, we're extending Sunrise, just like the multifamily originally was wanting to do and was requested to do for our entrance. And we're running water and sewer through the tract, just like was done before. So we've got 107 units. We've got 236 parking spaces that are required, and we are providing 316 parking spaces. So we're over parking it for guests. Basically, it's 1.5 plus. So if you do have people that have more cars, as far as if you've got a 2-bedroom and there are 2 people there and they have 2 cars, we're providing. So that's with what was discussed. I want to make sure there may be single family on Eagle Street right now that is zoned all R2. It can all be 2-story. It can all be density, and the corner is zoned C1. Again, developers are here to discuss. If you have any questions on the modular units, it is modular, and so that does follow building code, and that's how they decided what to do. The intent and the purpose of this development is affordable housing, and if you have any questions about how they want to attain that and go through that, we're happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. I'm sure there'll be more questions. We'll have Anna make her comments first, and then we'll go from there. Thanks.
All right, so this is a site plan review. Proposed development is 107 2-bedroom modular homes across 2 different lots with 2 different zoning. Development takes access off of Sunrise Street and South Eagle, and will create 8 private drive aisles that will be a minimum of 20 feet wide, and will also serve as fire lanes for the development. There's no proposed sidewalks within the development. Rather, the interior drive aisles will be used for pedestrian circulation, and parking will not be allowed on these drive aisles. The background, the site area is 11.37 acres. 2 zoning Lot 1 is C1, the one fronting Friendship, and then Lot 2 on the back is R2, mixed residential. Lot 1 is currently proposing 20% building coverage, and Lot 2 is proposing 24% building coverage. The impervious coverage of Lot 1 is 46% with a maximum allowed of 70. Impervious coverage of Lot 2 is 57% with a max of 65. All proposed structures are 1 story, and they are proposing 316 parking spots with 5 handicap. All of the units are 2-2, so there's no variation in the model. The unit all the same size. Let's see. The 2-bedroom unit does require 2 parking spaces plus a guest parking at a ratio of 10% of the total required spaces. Utilities are available, and the extension of infrastructure will be extended at the developer's expense to serve the property. Stormwater detention plans will be reviewed for civil construction plans, and parkland dedication, $500 per unit for a total of $53,500. Landscaping required one tree per 75 linear feet, and off-street parking shall have 10 square feet of interior landscaping for each parking space. Staff recommendations. So staff has some concerns regarding the placement and orientation of the buildings. The existing developments along this stretch of South Eagle tend to include single-family residents facing South Eagle and providing a residential feel. The orientation of the buildings on Lot 1, the south corner of Eagle and Friendship, have the sides of the buildings fronting South Eagle and do not follow the existing development patterns of the neighborhood. In addition, the buildings on Lot 2, Sunrise Street, appear to be the backs of the units. As proposed, each front yard is covered by parking. The visitor parking areas are scattered throughout the development. Refuse storage placement should be identified on the site plan, along with all relevant screening. It appears not all structures are sufficiently spaced from each other with 10-foot requirement for fire. Section 7.131, review and evaluation criteria for site plans provide the commission the ability to review arrangements of buildings and supports modifications to site plans that would result in increased compatibility. Staff recommends elevations be submitted and reviewed to better understand the full impact of the development and provide clarification on access for the units. If it is the commission's desire to approve the development, staff recommends approval be conditioned upon the following. All site plan requirements be met as described above. Approval of a preliminary plat and final plat, addressing, landscaping and screening, and civil construction plans, which may include a traffic impact analysis, potentially a fire lane easement agreement, and we want to know who's responsible for maintaining these private drive aisles and the overall maintenance of the property.
Thank you, Ann. All right, anybody have questions?
Of course, I'll start. I followed up with Anna on the not allowing street parking, and that's basically unenforceable. So you can say you're not going to allow street parking, but the city police will not enforce it for you. You'll have to do that yourselves. With the way this is, and no separate pedestrian access on the property, I don't see how that's going to be well managed the way it's structured right now.
Nothing is identified as on-site management, is it? What's the question? Is anything
on-site? Are you planning any on-site management? On-site?
Is anything identified in here as an on-site? No.
My second one, are the modular units permanently attached to a permanent foundation?
Yes.
So they're not coming in on their own wheels and being skirted.
No, they will be brought. Yeah. So Patrick Rouse. So they will be brought in they will be trucked in, and they are put on a permanent foundation, which is a concrete foundation with a block that is mortared in place and then strapped down into that concrete foundation. The
So then my next question is on the refuse collection option. With your aisleways, they're not going to be able to get trucks in there to collect individual cans, so you're going to have to do something else with the way you're going to handle your trash.
Y'all were going to do individual.
So
You were going to do individual pickup, right?
Correct.
yeah, and that's not going to work. Those
On a 26-foot wide drive aisle?
The trucks aren't going to be able to get through there. As soon as you get somebody parking on that street, the trucks aren't going to be able to get
It's a
through.
fire lane. You can't park in the street.
We know that.
But where would they pick
Look,
up from?
what I'm saying is that I'm not trying to argue with you, but what I'm saying is that that's no different than it's no different than Botanica, and it's no different than a typical multifamily project.
But multifamilies provide separate trash facilities on site. It's
Okay.
required.
I mean, if that's something that y'all would like to see, I don't see any reason why you can't do dumpsters throughout the track.
You'll have to switch it to dumpsters.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. We're overparked by,
My third question is
spaces.
on short-term rental question.
Mhm.
So our STRs are not prohibited in either R2 or C1, are they?
No, they're allowed in both zoning districts.
That's right, by right, right?
Right, sure.
One STR unit in R2 for an STR unoccupied is permitted by right. An STR facility, which is multiple units on one lot in R2, requires a conditional use permit. Our C1 allows STR unoccupied by right, and I believe STR facility.
I think C1 allows pretty much anything. So with our, we've restricted STRs in R3, we've restricted STRs in R1, and this one is sitting here as an R2 stroke C1 combination, and I don't believe we want them to be able to do STRs here if they're going to be renting these out as long-term rentals. So how are we going to handle that?
If I'm reading the zoning map correctly, what is where the predominantly C1 is their drain.
Well, but they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aisles of buildings in that C1 section.
Yeah, so if you're saying that C1 is allowed, if STRs are allowed in C1, then, I mean, that's not their intent. And I understand you can say, hey, that's not our intent. We're not intending to do it. We're going to do affordable housing. But that's the way the code is. So let's change the code. And this is site plan approval. And they can say, you're right. They said, he just said, I'm wanting to deed restrict.
A zoning change would take care of it.
Huh?
A zoning change to R2 would take care of it.
Well,
That
C1 to
C1 section.
rezone the C1 section to R2 so it can't.
You would still be able to potentially obtain one STR unoccupied permit across the entire development, but it would be one
and not.
So that would be, if these are rentals, can a renter apply for short-term rental?
Well, the rental operating company could apply for a
one.
short-term.
Just for
Like what's happened at the street in the apartment complex where the apartment complex operator is operating short-term rentals.
So we'd be open to deed restricting. Sorry, all right. My name is Matthew Shear. Sorry, thank you for having me. We're open to, and I think we suggested deed restricting it when we were going through the development review committee, to not have to go through a rezone. So would that be something that we could use? And
we had that discussion about deed restrictions not being enforceable by the city. City can't enforce a deed restriction. That's
yeah,
up
but
to the owner.
The ownership and property manager would not want to have that going on in the property, right?
Well, I'm not considering that the initial ownership would do that. It's that they'll sell it on to somebody else, and that the new owner can do whatever they want. So we can't consider that this is the only ownership and this is the way it's going to work. We have to consider that it's going to keep rolling through ownership. So, and a deed restriction is looking like something that we can't really use as a tool.
And again, this is site plan approval.
I get it.
So what are the rental rates gonna be on these things?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so in the, oh, sorry.
Go ahead and tell me what your plan is.
Oh, for leasing, so our thesis is targeting renters that are at AMI. AMI stands for annual median income. So that's what we look at in any project that we're considering. And we go to 30% of AMI for every deal. Here it's 62,500 plus or minus depending on which source you look at. And rental rates will come in around 1,600, 1,650 with that thesis.
For a one bedroom?
Two bed.
Well, they're all, excuse me, that's right.
Here's the market.
Well, one of the comments that staff made had to do with the fact that there are none of these that do front the street, as far as the front of the buildings. All of it is the side or the back of it, which sort of.
So we were following, so the Botanica is also facing the back. And so we're extending that same pattern on sunset, sunrise. And then, we have one entrance off of Eagle. And so, to front Eagle, we'd have to do individual driveways, and you don't want individual people backing out onto Eagle. And so, and to connect that and to face those forward it's just not efficient. And you don't have the back, but you do have the side. So, same pattern is being followed on Sunrise, and you're looking at the side on Eagle. So.
Tell me how you're going to have an HOA in a 100% rented transient population tenant base.
So we have a third-party HOA company that we've been speaking with. They operate nationwide, and it's a third-party HOA. So those are.
So that's not even part of the ownership process.
Right. So it's third-party enforced by property management, right? So how else can you really enforce any of the rules other than having good property management? That's right. But in reality, on any multifamily property that we look at, that's kind of what it comes down to. Property ownership is responsible for landscaping, maintaining the roads. I know that was one of the questions.
Yeah, right.
Any multifamily, there are no owners of these properties.
Negative.
None.
Zero.
So, who's going to maintain the streets and who's going to take care of the landscaping, garbage, and all the rest of the stuff that an owner would ordinarily do? You're telling me that it's going to be a management company that's a third party?
Correct. To keep the project under.
Just like an apartment complex. Yeah. It's like the apartment complex. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, it's 100% correct.
They're going to lawns, they're going to maintain the streets just like you would in a regular drive aisle.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you, this is just like a multifamily project.
Understand. It is.
So yeah, don't look at it as a single family. Look at it as a multifamily. These are just individual 2-bedroom units instead of stacking them on top of each other, basically. And it's more open, less density. It is a different way of looking at it.
Yes.
But it is
certainly a different way to look. Now, the current ownership group, have you ever done this before? Anywhere else? And if you have, where is it? So we can go look.
Only a multifamily deal, not a built for rent property. So horizontal multifamily is different, right?
So you've never done one of these like this?
Negative.
You're asking us to be the first group that you're going to try this with.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct.
I'll make that clear.
Lots and lots of research, lots of good partnerships. Equity partnerships, they have done this before, and we're working really closely with them to make sure it's successful. Our group right here has not.
Okay. Is there fencing along South Eagle?
Yeah.
It is, it's hard to, when you shrink the plat down this small, it's hard to see the details. So the concern from staff was that it isn't in correct orientation with what the rest of Eagle is. That's actually going to be fixed. Yeah, so just like was required before in the last multifamily, you've got, 6 foot. If you go to sheet 2, you can see the trees that are the landscaping that's being put in there. The 6 foot wood fence and the sidewalk. Staff previously was requiring a sidewalk along South Eagle Street to be done, and so that is being done as well. Is there fencing along Friendship also? Yes. Okay. The entire perimeter. The entire perimeter will be fenced. You may have addressed this already, but there is part of landscape, landscape, grass.
It'll be all local and native plants, from a plant standpoint, and then we'll seed out some grass as well.
So, big grass,
big
grass in the yard.
Yeah. Yes.
They're food. So any place that is called out as landscape area, it's either grass or we have a landscape plan where you're doing the perimeter trees. Right.
How, in the rest of the city of Fredericksburg, practically speaking, drainage is handled by using the roadway as a waterway for drainage, generally speaking, which requires curbs and gutters at some time in the street to carry the water. How are you going to curb and gutter each one of these?
If we can't handle things through sheet flow and through guiding like we would do in a typical multifamily, then we'll put inlets and drainage pipe. So we can't flood the units. So we have to make sure that we have proper drainage through the streets, or take it underground, and that's in the CDs.
But that's not called out on the plan.
No, well, we have a utility plan shown for water and sewer, and we've told you the direction that we're taking the drainage, and we've said where our detention facility is going to be and where that's going to outfall.
Told us how you're going to get it there.
No, that's typically done in the construction document phase.
Jeff Moran did written.
Anybody else have comments? Questions?
All this and staff's comments, I'm not comfortable with voting yes on this. So I'm going to make a motion that we.
Second.
A motion by Polly, a second by Tim to deny this application of this site plan.
Roll call vote.
Any other questions? Any other discussion?
Yes, I do that. So as far as this is kind of a question for me. This site plan has met all our current codes.
Well, it has it on refuse, it has it on pedestrian access. And we have the whole section 7.131 on compatibility with the surrounding area. So that's where a lot of the staffing concerns have come from.
Okay.
So I think that at minimum, they could go back, rework it with staff, maybe reorient some parts of it, make it look a little more compatible on Eagle Street, things like that. See if they can come up with different.
Can we talk about specifics? Compatibility. I mean, we'd like to know what to change, rather than just saying, okay, we're denying it, and come back and we'll let you know maybe if we like it the next time.
Well, if staff has already talked to you about the orientation.
No, they told me that. They told me that when I got it on Thursday.
So I'd be looking at, particularly along Eagle, because you've got R2 right above you. So this piece,
right, which can be
to the
2.5
north.
which can be 2.5 story, just like was before, and can be a standard apartment complex.
Yes. Didn't Jeff Moran come in on that? That's something we've already approved on the Jeff Moran property.
No, it's next to his.
It was next to his. So,
This is what you approved. This is what you approved before. This is the apartment complex you've already approved.
the McDonald tract.
Yeah,
Yes, and I'm looking at these here.
I know, but
And
those
the
are
McDonald
R2.
tract,
But
look,
those are
look,
R2.
but look at it. The McDonald tract moved their buildings away from Eagle Street so that you wouldn't have these big breaks with the ones above them. I remember when we were looking at this. They had agreed to move those over and have them off. On your tract, you have them abutting directly onto Eagle Street.
Well, that's the kind of feedback I'm looking for.
Yeah, so there's
that's what.
Yeah,
If
so
we're gonna need to come back, I need
Right.
to know what to come back with.
So it's more about being compatible with what's there to the north of it on Eagle Street and not creating such a harsh break between these properties and this property. And I'm glad you brought me to the Donald one because I didn't have
Yeah,
it.
I wanted to educate everybody about what's going on.
The Donald one solved that issue by pulling their buildings back and putting them on this side and not fronting on Eagle Street.
So how would a fence, if we were fencing that piece of the property, how would that help us or hurt us or won't do anything?
Yeah,
There's already a 6-foot fence that's going to be there, so nobody would see it anyway because it's single story. But
Did we agree to a solid fence down Eagle Street on the old McDonald one? Don't remember.
Old McDonald.
Sorry,
If
I
you
didn't mean to
answer-
make it.
I've got. I had the construction documents. I didn't print the whole thing. You guys have the construction documents on your.
Was that a privacy fence or an open fence?
Also,
it would have been.
when meeting with Mr. Moore, he just asked us to mirror the fence that he already has against that property,
Okay.
which we were happy to do.
So that means everybody who goes by here, they're going to see nothing but fence.
Correct. I mean, you could stop the fence, where you start your detention pond past the street.
Yeah, I still think I want to see the refuse thing, and I want to see y'all do something about pedestrian
Is it possible to?
access inside on this. That's still
So are you looking for sidewalks?
sidewalks would be ideal, but
We understand that the streets are 26.
Yeah, they're 26 feet wide.
Not all of them.
All the interior streets are 26 feet wide.
No. Not according to this drawing, are they?
Yes.
Only
no. Cabernet Drive is 20 on this document. Cabernet is 20. Sauvignon Drive is 26.
Everything's 26.
well, then the drawing's wrong.
Well, it could be.
Yeah. It says 20.
Yeah, the fire lane is called out at 20 feet, so you know that the fire lane. Everything on this drawing is 26 feet wide. I know that. There's a 20-foot fire lane shown inside that. Now, realistically, so the fire marshal knows he has that. Realistically, we painted all at 26 foot width, but all these drive aisles are 26 feet wide.
And are the parking
For
spaces?
an uneducated non-engineer, it appears to be.
Well, but again, let's look at it, and let's put it on the screen. Look at it. Blow it up. 20-foot wide in the interior. See
Fire
that
lane.
dash line
Says
is
fire
20-foot wide fire lane, and then the
Alright.
streets are 26 feet wide.
Yeah, can't see it on.
And are the parking spaces measured for the big honker vehicles we
Yes.
have nowadays?
Yeah, so they're 18 by basically 9 by 18, and that detail is shown on the site plan.
Is that our standard parking space? Yep, 18.
Yes.
Anna, can you address the 10-foot requirement question that you had?
Yeah, that was one from the fire marshal, and so it was just that we couldn't confirm the distance between, especially the rear properties, how they were backing up. And other questions that came up when you sent over the renderings, which we appreciate. you're showing some fencing here, you're showing some paving, so combustibility of fences then with setbacks, and then if you're showing pavers, that's increasing your impervious cover. And porches, no porches are shown. If there's storage, I think there's one drawn here, but there's no storage shown on the site plan, so those things impact impervious cover. And
We had a lot of that updated, but didn't have a chance to submit. I understand.
Well, if
It's, that's stuff that we could always pull out. We want to work with you guys to do this. The only way that we can really move the thing forward, sit down with you and work, is to have an approval of this plan. And we could work through things like refuse, if we have to pull out a unit or two, we have to get rid of quite a bit of parking. The recommendation, this still can handle that. So, as far as looking for places for refuse and being able to work with y'all to do something that we think would be great here, we'd really like the opportunity to do so.
And that's the same. I mean, we know we have a need for price point of housing, so staff definitely wants to work with you. And I'm glad you brought the Botanica because they have, they have the waste in the back in the corners, and they coupled the visitor parking, right? So instead of having 3 across, so that all you see is parking when you pull in, that nobody really has a front yard, they just have parking to designate some actual visitor parking areas instead of just a sea of parking. Just if you put yourself in here, and I'm going to walk around and I'm going to walk to Walmart because I'm so close, and how do you manage that? And just it's a big neighborhood, sure, right? So making it feel like a neighborhood that you want to hang out in. I mean, the only green space is down here by the detention pond. I don't know if you're going to allow access or if that's going to be blocked off, but you're creating a neighborhood that people want to live in for years to come.
And believe me, I like the concept. It's just that this is going to be the first one of its kind in our community, and we're the planning and zoning board, sure, that has to say yes or no. And we're going to live with this for 40 years.
And we want to make you really happy with it.
And so I don't want to do a conditional approval. I want it to go back. I want it to be reworked. I want it to come back, and I want it to be clean enough to where we feel, at least I feel comfortable that all the conditional stuff has been agreed that can be done at this point. So there's quite a few of these things I'm like, it just does not feel comfortable to me yet. It doesn't feel ready yet for us to approve him as a member of the community and a P&Z commissioner. I'm not comfortable with this yet.
Neither am I.
That's
Call for
all
the
right. Well,
question.
yes, I was just going to say we have a motion on the floor.
So is the board going to provide specific items that they're uncomfortable with to staff? Can y'all do that?
I
So that we don't.
I think Anna has given. I think she's identified quite a few things. If it needs,
Well, they were pretty broad, and that's not. I mean,
it's going to be like I'll know it when I see it, kind of thing. It's new. It's different. It's uncomfortable. It's going to take a while to get comfortable. And that's all I'm saying. Is that?
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand.
I want them 100% comfortable with it before I start feeling comfortable with it, because it is new and different for our community. It's not something we've ever done before. And I don't want to be walking down the aisle in HEB and have to live with this having been a bad decision.
No, I totally agree. I totally get it. So.
Right. And I don't want a South Milam mobile home slum.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that we take care, we do the right steps, and we get it as right as we possibly can, because we're going to live with it, and we got 11,000 other residents who are going to come and talk to us one way or another about it. And I'd rather have them walk up and say, it was really different and I was really uncomfortable with it, but guess what? You guys knocked it out of the park. That's what I'd rather happen. Right now, I don't feel like we're going to be knocking it out of the park. Okay. So, like I said, I don't have a problem with the concept. I just want to make sure execution is really good, because it may be the only one we do. Otherwise, we may never do another one again. Okay.
All right. Well, I know you are a proponent for affordable housing, and that's something that you have a foundation or whatever that's wanting to do that. And so So I know that's something that you want to get done. So I'm, you know, yeah.
I don't know, I think affordable housing gets thrown around a lot, but I think the definition of affordable housing is like having your own house that you have equity in, and not just living in an apartment or something that you don't own. Affordable means you have a house like everybody else and you own it.
Well,
And
affordable,
you can
period.
afford it.
Yeah, well, affordable, period.
Right.
Affordable is period, whether it's apartments or whether it's multifamily, single family. I mean, it's all affordable housing. So if my employees pay $2,200, you know, to be in the current apartment, and these guys are doing $1,680, you know, that to me, that's the definition. But I agree that we need to get it right as far as how it's laid out. And I know these guys want to do it that way.
No, I think too, what I see here, it's been thrown out that this is no different than an apartment complex, but I don't see it functioning like an apartment complex. You know, I agree, there's no pedestrian walkways anywhere there are in apartment complexes.
All right, see.
You know, if you say it's going to be like an apartment complex, then it needs to function like one.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Had a lot of discussion, so let's vote. Yes.
Can I ask one more question? And first off, Kevin, I want to compliment you on that question you asked. What is it we don't like? I appreciate that because I get told all the time, I don't like that. Well, tell me what you don't like about it. Have you had answers here that give you the direction to move forward on bringing something that you think is good?
Well, I understand that we need to do dumpsters throughout the project. I understand that we need to group the visitor parking. And I understand that that's about it. I mean, we've got a 6-foot fence. I guess all I'd answer your question. You want the fence to be moved back to maybe the 25-foot building line, or you want some type of green buffer there, even though there's going to be a fence there. Surely you don't want a 4-foot see-through fence on the side yard. So I don't have clear direction, and the circulation pattern that we're following is the same circulation pattern that was followed before, and it follows Botanical on the other side. So is Sunrise, the way the orientation on Sunrise, is that good? Because you can't have driveways out onto Sunrise individually. You can't have people backing out into Sunrise. And that's the only way to get to Sunrise is through that driveway. So it seems to me that we're only talking about the approach on South Eagle.
I think I'd like to see South Eagle looked at again. I mean, if there's no other way to do it and city staff agrees with you, then city staff will bring back the recommendation. But I want city staff to be comfortable with it, and I'm particularly concerned about the South Eagle side. Not so much
right,
the
but in particular, the fact that there needs to be landscaping there, or what in particular is
something to soften the break between those single family residentials right above it and this.
So something on the north side.
Yeah, either towards north and towards Eagle.
Okay. Well, it's not single family; it's church on that side, and it's a ball field right now on the other side of the street, but it could be.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. I meant these.
Yeah, to the north.
Right.
Okay.
And your approach down Eagle, as you're driving down Eagle, you're looking at more setback properties, and then all of a sudden this is coming really close, which is the way it was before, but they moved the buildings back, which in your case you may not be able to do. But I'd like to see staff take a look at it with you again and see if y'all can come up with a little bit more configuration before we bring it back.
And walkability, as you would have in a multifamily style.
Right. Right.
Setup.
Yeah. It doesn't have interior walkability.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can only go to the low point, so I can only dig a ditch so deep. So I mean, yeah, we could make that a little bit more linear. You're right. There's little things. So, and the reason it's so important is that to come back and work through and have an answer is because, you know, McDonald property, you know, they own it, they still own it. They're only going to give these guys so much time.
I understand.
So, you know, there is a clock in everybody's head. So with that direction, then we can.
It's just, we have a 30-year clock.
I understand. I understand.
So Nick, just to be sure, because I think we ran into this one time a few months ago, we deny it tonight, but we've given them somewhat specific reasons as to why we're denying. They can then bring it back and those changes.
They can bring it back when they think it's ready.
When they think it's they will be able to bring it back with noted changes.
Yeah, and they will want to bring it back for the next agenda. Can that be accomplished?
Staff, do y'all feel comfortable going out of improvements?
All right. So we still need a.
We can get a question about the next agenda.
Well, no, the agenda has passed, and so we don't have anything to review yet, so our timing would be way off. So it'd be looking at August.
We don't know what.
I mean, we're already in the process. I don't know if we can make our changes.
I mean, I guess it depends on how quickly you can get changes made, but we've got to have that back and forth time for the comments.
Mm-hmm. So we're already in the process, so we could continue to move forward with the goal of getting on the next agenda.
We'll talk with you offline on that, see what we can do, but the deadline has passed.
Yeah,
we'll work with you
for a new submittal. Okay.
All right. We'll take a vote.
Can you re-clarify the motion, because the motion was to deny, correct?
I have that Polly Rickert made a motion to deny, and it was seconded by Tim Dooley.
Was it the other way around? Did you make the motion?
No.
Polly made.
Polly made the
Okay.
motion, I made the second.
Okay.
Jim Giroux.
Yes. Yes.
Daryl Whitworth.
Get the list of it.
Jeff Lawrence.
Yes.
Cindy Scroggins.
Yes.
Polly Rickert.
Yes.
Tim Dooley.
Yes.
Steve Thomas.
Yes.
Janice Minking.
Yes.
The only thing they ask is that you do want to put the pilot make a motion to staff, but then maybe like see what fresh in our mind. And again, it is a project.
Thank you guys for working with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
All right, let's go to action item number 7E, Site Plan 2306, request by Kevin Fraggins with BEI to consider a site plan for a hotel complex located at 1100 Friendship Lane.
Yep.
Pick up his next packet. Do you need a break, Kevin?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't necessarily. I do have a tea back there. I don't necessarily like to do this, you know, back in, but when you get on the agenda, you get on the agenda, you know. So that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes. So,
Paid for.
yes, I do. And you know, it's Leslie Stage. She didn't leave. She wants to make sure that I get through this. She'll hold me up.
You've already got the cleaner.
Well, yeah, you would have thought.
She's going to make you take her out to eat afterwards.
Oh my God. So, again, this project is for site plan approval. This is for a hotel project, and the developer, our job is here, and to answer any questions on the project. And again, I want to make sure that everybody understands the history and what we've done on this tract. And so, If y'all will remember, back in January of 18th on 2022, this tract was changed to a C2 zone. It was rezoned. And I don't know if you have any of the zoning maps or anything up, but
Yes.
do you have anything on there for that? Because I do have copies of that if you.
You used up all the color printing.
So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that our tract is zone C2, that the old Walmart is what is here. So our tract is C2, which just gave you the piece. I gave you west. That was what the concern was. So there is a site plan on the packet. I mean, there is a aerial drawing at the end of your packet to kind of show where we are. You want to include that or get to that on the screen. There you go. So just so everybody knows. So first of all, our track is only part. Okay. This is what we've done. Okay. This piece is R3. Okay. 3 stories up. This track is actually, the front of it, the way I'm so we have R3 here, we have commercial here, and then I guess the way the zoning ordinance shows it, this entire piece is commercial. We only have right.
I'll have to double check, but I remember that. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what was rezoned because the owner Beller owned this. They wanted to make sure everything was rezoned, so they rezoned. Okay. Our area is C2, and in that packet, this site plan shows. So it's very apparent what this site. So, and right next to us, this piece, the other piece and we have Walmart across the street from us. We have the old Walmart, Sutherland's here. This is some commercial. Okay. We also, because we wanted to make sure that we had all our ducks in a row, we had a TIA done, traffic impact analysis done for this tract that went through Garrett. And that is how we got the driveway placement that is shown on here. You want to go up to the site plan? So originally, this was over here. That wanted to make sure we lined it up, and they wanted to make sure what improvement required as part of the development. So this TIA shows that this site plan, this alignment where we had the site plan approved and also secondary. Also, as part of configuration for the site plan, I talked about the driveway that we talked about. We worked with fire engineering on. We also worked with LCRA. There's already a LCRA line right here. Worked with LCRA, so if you work with LCRA, you know you got to get everything approved. So pool had to be out. The driveways had to be here. We had to make sure we had green space here. That line. So as far as circulation, as far as everything that needed to be thought through, as far as zoning change, we've also already put in the utilities. So we brought water up through here, and those have already been put in. The service 1, 2, 3. Those back and service store in the back. which they've already approved. We've already got the as-built stuff on that. So, as far as what's around us, and staff had some comments about single story, 2-story. We also had an elevation done as far as drive up and I know this is, I wanted to provide not exactly the same, but so these are the hotels that want to go. And right now, the way their prototype is 4-story, but they are willing to change that to 3-story to match C2 and to match the city says it needs to be. And so they're comply with that. But this gives you a general. There's no corridor guidelines or anything like that. But this gives you the general drive up and and how the different elevations and how these different national chains do their hotels and developments. And we asked the architect, one of the questions was loading and unloading, and the architect said that through all of the different units and in the way they do things, the drop-off zone is in with how they circulate their cars through. So there isn't a special drop-off zone. So we meet all the site plan criteria, guidelines, and approvals, and have gone through multiple steps to get here and would ask for site plan approval on this project.
Thank you, sir. Anna, you or Shelby, which both of you?
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
That summary was fabulous. As Kevin had mentioned, a site plan has been submitted to develop a portion of a property located at 1100 Friendship Lane. You may remember that this property was considered for a zoning change back in January of 2022 that Kevin had mentioned. The proposed development would include 3 separate hotels. They're 3 stories each with a total of 409 rooms and 2 pools. The development is proposing internal sidewalks to assist with pedestrian connectivity and is matching their primary entrance with the Walmart access drive across Friendship Lane. The site area is 8 acres and the zoning is C2 commercial, which does allow for a maximum building height of 3 stories, which the applicant is requesting. The building coverage is 19% with a maximum allowed of 75%, and the impervious cover is 77% with a maximum allowed of 80%. Utilities, as Kevin had mentioned, are available to serve the property. Detention, stormwater detention plans and studies will be reviewed as part of civil construction plans. Landscaping and a landscape plan is required, as well as a screening plan that'll primarily affect the residential uses at the back of the property, as well as the RV park. Staff has concerns regarding the placement and the size of the buildings, given the 2-story multifamily use to the west, the single-story retail building to the east, the Sutherland's building, the RV park and the single-family residential uses to the south, and the elevation changes and the Walmart building to the north. Section 7.131, Review and Evaluation Criteria for Site Plans, provides the Commission the ability to review arrangements of buildings as well as size and supports modifications to site plans that would result in increased compatibility. In addition, the loading and unloading zones are not clearly defined, nor are the back of house operations. Staff recommends that elevations are submitted and reviewed to better understand the full impact of the development. The 3 structures are proposed to be the maximum building height. Only one of the structures is designed to face the street and is set to the rear of the property, with the other structures having their side elevations facing the street. If it's the Commission's desire to approve the development, staff would recommend approval be conditioned upon approval of a final plat, approval of an addressing plan, approval of landscaping and a screening plan, as well as civil construction plans.
Thank you, Shelby. Questions, comments?
I have a question. Could you go back to the aerial and then then on page, the document that we've got here. Okay. So
What page are you on?
I'm on, the only page in here that wasn't numbered.
103?
We're on, 103.
Not 104, but 103.
103. Okay. So Kevin, on this site plan.
Yes.
Okay. So there is the entrance here.
Yes.
That lines up. Walmart on Friendship Lane has two back entrances.
Mhm.
One that's before, I guess, it's directly across from 1019 Apartments, and then the other one that is farther, that's closer to Sutherland's. Okay, so does this entrance, the main entrance you show here, that lines up with the easternmost entrance to Walmart that's closest to Sutherland's?
Yeah. Well, this lines up with the big entrance. That is, do you want to go put the aerial up?
One near the auto center. Looks where they park the trucks and see.
Okay, that's the auto. That's the autos. Okay, now. Okay, and that's the other thing that I'm. Is there a strip of land on this track that you're not using?
We already have separate track.
Okay, so I'm looking at this, and so on
strip that they still own.
Okay, so right here on this one, this is not the 1019 Apartments. So that's a vacant piece of land next to the 1019. So how far, just on that strip, where would you say that the apartments go? In there. Okay. In the future, I think it would be nice to have some kind of.
Yeah, because I thought it
because
flooded the
because I looked at the thing and I'm going, oh wow, this is the size. This drawing looks like the size of the entire lot.
Oh,
But
I
it's not.
agree, and so this is not, the subject property is not defined correctly on.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
should have been.
So the subject property is about there. Okay.
Now looking at the zoning, it definitely shows.
Okay.
So the overall tract was zoned to commercial, but we are only developing that one portion.
Right. Okay. So there's still a piece of the property that's going to be owned by somebody other than these developers. Okay. So here the question I have: if we're going to put, okay, I'm going to start with one thing. How many units? How many hotel rooms do we have in all three apartments?
So we have 105, 102, and 102. So
Okay.
300 and.
Okay. So we
Nine.
have another 300, and then what do you think the normal occupancy is? At any one time.
Well, I mean, per the code, you're supposed to have 324 spaces.
Okay, that's fine. I understand that. So I don't know that you want to use the 324 spaces, because what I'm about to ask you is how much traffic, according to the study, is going to be dumped on Friendship Lane.
Well, the traffic study calls out the 324 spaces. So the TIA follows this site plan.
Okay, I understand. My concern, and this is my concern with every development that we have had on Friendship Lane, is that we're dumping more traffic onto the second busiest street in the city of Fredericksburg, the first being Main Street. And I'm not opposed to the project, because I've got an ulterior motive here. And my ulterior motive is, I think that what the city of Fredericksburg needs to do to Friendship Lane is put a turn lane in the center and have single lanes going east and west, all the way from 16 to 290. Because I think we're in a situation now where we've got too much traffic and we've got too high speeds. So a concern I have is, how are people going to, that are coming in, let's say from 290, okay? How are they going to turn in to your, to this complex? They're going to go again, they're going to go against traffic, and there's no turn lane. Somebody could run into it.
But that's why you do the TIA.
I know, I understand that, and I'm not objecting. I'm preaching to you right now, but I'm really preaching to 3 other people that are in this room right now. Okay, I think that for this piece of property, I look at it as what's the best use of this piece of property right now. It's in a commercial zone. It's across the street from Walmart. It's got an RV park behind it. Okay. There are a couple of single family residences that are on Winding Way that are behind it. It is, look at the thing. They're in the county. It doesn't butt up to the apartment. I thought it butted up to the apartments, but it doesn't. So I think that having a hotel complex here, if you're going to put it somewhere, this is probably as good as anywhere. Okay, and with that in mind, and the shape of the parcel, I don't think there's a lot you can do. There's only certain things you can do when to arrange buildings on the on the piece of property. So I think the thing looks good. If we go down the street to the Fairfield end, we have the same configuration as far as the end of the building is facing Friendship Lane. Okay, I don't know that that doesn't the configuration of the 3 hotels. There's no way you could get them all to face Friendship.
Okay, so
No,
So
we're
Kevin,
in a phase called discussion.
right. So my question is on the 3rd parcel, the Courtyard by Marriott one, at the back of the property.
This one.
Yeah, the one at the back of the property.
Mhm.
So your single family homes are on that corner where the pool is, on the other side of on the back side of the property. Yes.
So that's all open space. That's cool. There with the
So my thing is, yeah, but they're still property owners. I mean, you still have to consider that they were there first. So my question is, I'm thinking that pool is going to create a lot of noise, and it's awfully close to those particular pieces of property. Any way to flip it so that the pool's either on the interior or it goes the other way towards Sutherland's instead?
I've got an overhead line here, and I've got a sewer line. Is that pool not fixed? We could put a different buffer. It's already 75 feet away.
I'm just saying, we're dropping a noise nuisance right on the back side of somebody's single family home property. That's not going to be too good in their opinion.
For the backyard, it's about 200 feet.
250 is long. That's not that. It's
And
far enough.
And those properties will be rural properties.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not
I understand.
infringing
No.
on somebody else's right to enjoy
And
their
is there-
property
is there-
by putting a pool right on their back.
No,
porch.
and, it's not like 5 feet away. So I agree.
And Kevin, is there going to be fencing in the back there?
Yes.
Okay. All the way around.
Mm-hmm. So this is a great way, as far as I'm concerned, to pull tourists or transients out of our neighborhoods and put them where they were always intended to be, in hotel beds. So, and I'm looking at this, and that is the most efficient stack 300 people I've ever seen. He did a damn good job. Thank you. No, cruise ships can't do that.
So I did have a question for the owner. Regarding the pools, do you own other properties, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do you have?
Ravi, thank you so much for having me today. I actually, this is not my first property that I done in Fredericksburg. For a friend of mine, I did the home press in Fredericksburg back in 2012, and also helped them out with Sunday House principally. And I developed and owned the Hampton Inn and Suites in Bernie, which was actually I got over their award with Hilton. I own a 30-story high-rise in Illinois. I own the largest resort in the state of Arkansas, which is 550-room resort, Arlington Resort in Arkansas. And let's see here, in Corpus Christi, we're doing 180-room development as well. So I'm actually in 5 states, and we just acquired a property in Minnesota. But I'm actually really glad to be in Fredericksburg because I used to live in Germany, so I speak German and got a lot of family in Germany. And this is the closest I can get to, yeah, so I haven't jumped on a flight.
He's here a lot.
So yeah, so it's good to be here, and I live in San Antonio, and I'm going to be involved. And this is a long-term. It's going to be a project I'm going to keep. So it's not going to be a.
This is a follow-up question and kind of address Polly's concern regarding noise. Do those other properties you own have quiet hours?
Yeah, 10 o'clock. It's a brand standard because just like. Obviously these properties are Marriott and Hilton. They're very strict. They're not like your typical hotels that you can just be open on. Yeah, they're very strict. They have very strict standards.
So I've got another question. Do the Marriott, will any of the hotels have restaurants?
Yeah, so the courtyard is going to have, it's going to be more of the best way I can describe it is a select service style brand. So we'll be serving it breakfast and dinner as well at the bar area. And then the town place and the home too, they will just have complimentary breakfast.
Okay. So no food service, cocktail lounge?
So the courtyard is the only one that's going to have, it's not like a full blown bar. It's just, the very controlled bar.
That's just for people who are staying there.
I mean, well,
No,
you could go there
never.
and have a drink. I mean, if you wanted to, but it's courtyard is meant to be like meet and greet. It's a place to meet, have meetings. It's a type of hotel that's mainly for corporate and leisure on the weekends. And then the home too and the town place are basically the extended stay. So they have like some kitchenette and stuff. But this project really complements each project. Each hotel complements each other, and like you said, gentlemen, the biggest problem I've seen, since I've coming out to Fredericksburg is you guys are having substantial short-term, issues with short-term rentals, and this is the perfect solution for it. The reason you're having such a problem is because there's just not enough room, Mark. So everyone is, and also when there's not enough room, the current hotel rooms jack up the rates really, really high. Which it's supply and demand, obviously.
Yeah, that's capital.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So in this case, we'll be able to relieve substantially, and eventually you're going to see it down. People prefer to stay hotel. That's just been the case for a long time, and I think it'll be a good solution for the problem that the city is having.
Also, we hadn't built a motel.
Since the Fairfield.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
a nice hotel.
And are these all, is that in our corridor?
No, this is
No.
not corridor.
No corridor.
Okay. But they're still standing, they look okay? Do you need to get them to change anything?
I would like to move to approve SP-2306 with the conditions noted regarding approval of final plat, addressing plan, landscape grading plan, and civil construction plans.
As a resident of Friendship Lane, can I second that? I'll second.
We have a motion by Darrell, a second by Tom. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion
Okay,
carries.
thank you.
By the way, there's a big beer fest this weekend.
Yeah. My son's birthday, so yeah. I may bring him out here. There's one Friday. So.
Now, it's not all Germans here, though.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we need to approve some minutes.
Make a motion for the minutes. Nope, we can't approve it for minutes.
Oh, somebody found a problem.
Yes, the May 3rd, which I've already let Shelby know, both Holly and I were in attendance, especially since we were noted in the minutes as being there, motioning, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
but I had to go, as I told you, I had to go check my calendar to make sure I was in town.
Yeah.
But I would move to approve minutes with said edits.
That's for the May 3rd minutes.
May 3rd, yes, ma'am.
Have a motion by Daryl.
Second.
By Polly. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, then we have the minutes from the April 18th joint council and planning and zoning meeting.
I move we approve those two since I'm going to was there.
A motion by Daryl. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by
I
Tom.
know you are.
Any other discussion? We still got something else. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Approve the minutes. Let's go to item number 8A, director's report.
So at some point, I do want to give you guys a presentation on kind of the comp plan and your role and where we are on that, things to be considering. I don't think we're going to have time tonight. But one thing I did want to bring to your attention, recent legislation that's been passed that's going to impact us here. There was some changes to public hearing requirement for preliminary zoning report by commission to at least one rather than hearings plural. So I think that's going to be a good thing for us. The one that we are most, well, there's two, but one that we're really concerned about is the state preemption bill. Cities and counties may not adopt ordinances related to Texas agriculture, finance, insurance, labor, natural resources, or occupation codes. So essentially, we can't have any local ordinances if there's a state regulation. And
that passed?
It did pass.
So,
What is that?
does that mean that,
What does that
that
mean?
we are not going to be able to be a home rule city anymore? That we will be a general law city?
Well, that's interesting because that's the approach of the current legislature.
Well, if it's been signed, then what do we do?
The bill, or the statute now, gives individuals the power to seek remedies in court if we attempt to enforce an ordinance that is in a matter that's covered by those codes, agricultural code, labor code, finance code. So it is an attack on home rule. No one knows how it's going to work out yet. Of course, the city attorneys are working hard on that to try to evaluate it and what we're going to do and whether we're going to try to challenge based on the Constitution itself, and constitutional or not. But it's going to take some time for that statute to work itself through so we can figure it out.
Plan that we had to go through our home rule charter and revise it because it's time is something we need to wait on?
No, we should do it now. We should continue, and our charter provisions should reflect the will of the voters who vote for any changes, and we'll see how the state law might impact.
So does that affect our use rules? Like, I mean, I'm looking at that one, I'm going, okay, how does that particular one play out? Does it mean we're not able to restrict uses within the city limits?
Or are we going to be a lawsuit city every time we do something people don't like?
Or if they don't get what they want, are they going to threaten us with lawsuit?
Well, that's one of the problems with the statute is that I think what Tom said is right. No one's going to be able to know exactly what it means. So they're going to sue, or some people are, and those will have to play their way through the courts to figure out the scope of each of these different changes. But yeah, we're working on that. It's going to take time to figure that out.
I would hope that when you get some kind of a summary about these things, you'd pass you could email those to us in our P&Z email accounts so that we could sort of digest what these things mean. Because this is complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Not only what this board does, but what the city council does and what city staff does.
Yeah.
How the hell are we supposed to manage our city when the yahoos on the Colorado think that they know what's best to manage every city in the state of Texas because they think every city in the state of Texas is Austin, Texas.
That's exactly right. That's exactly the comments of the governor actually. He mentioned Austin specifically when he signed it.
Yeah, because I know we have prohibited uses within the city limits, so.
I think
see
we can
somebody trying to
continue most of those unless there's something in the agriculture code or the labor code or the finance code or one of those listed natural resources code, maybe the big one, that
An
appears
occupations
to
code?
preempt us. So that
Like,
we don't know.
is a strip club considered an occupation?
No, but interestingly, we have specific enabling statutes to regulate adult businesses. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think through this.
So that one is, that one's already, we already have power to restrict those.
Well, I don't know that any citizen off the top of their head understands, what's in the agricultural code or what's in the occupational code. How do those, what do they say that you can do in those codes that they're saying is being preempted here?
Well, anything they say is what the purpose of the statute is to preempt. The law generally on preemption is that there must be a clear, precise, and specific conflict with the state law for us not to be able to pass a local ordinance there. With a couple of exceptions, like the alcoholic beverage code specifically states, it preempts everything for us except for zoning and parks.
Well, I guess so. We'll rely on you and city staff to tell us what the state says we can and cannot do. I would like the sooner the better. Once the dust clears, I'd like to know what the state says we can't do.
Well, it's going to be a long list, and the challenges to city and county authority are not going to all be successful. Part of what you're saying, who understands it, just try to get some ordinance overturned or not enforced if they don't get what they want. So it's going to take a long time. I mean, years for it to play out.
Nice.
So I still have my shingle hung up for.
Yeah, I bet.
And your other 25 lawyers.
Well, we'll probably have to have
some
more lawyers.
So the other one of interest actually ties into, I've got a question for you. But this one says that cities must give notice to owners and renters of any potential non-conforming use created by a zoning text or classification change. And it adds that compensation as an alternative to amortization of non-conforming use at the option of the owner plus relocation expenses. And it redefines market value to be paid or amortized. So what this is getting at, we know we did the STR amendment and we created about 950 non-conforming uses. So that's done, that's passed, but we also have another draft of an STR ordinance that City Council wants to discuss with you on the 19th.
City Council is proposing another joint meeting on last week's when we were.
So would the 19th at 5:30.
Well, 4 of us are recused, so.
And you're not allowed to see a damn thing,
And
so.
we're not even allowed to participate, so.
For the rest of you, the 19th.
5 of you are not recused.
19th of June, what time and where?
5:30. Where? Tentatively looking at the Cardinal Room again.
Okay. So we're not wrong either. All right. And are you finished?
Well, one other that was going to tie into the comp plan. The last piece of legislation specifically relating to what we do. This was about adoption of climate policy in a municipal charter. So requiring a municipal charter commission to receive authorization by state agency to enact comprehensive ordinance, rule, or other policy statement to address climate change or environmental impact on water, energy, or emissions. So here we are about to, comp plan's going to be coming out, and we might want to talk about environmental impacts in our development. So we would require state authorization to do something like that.
Well, I think we'll try to play it safe and stick to the basic things and not get into too much.
One other
watershed.
One other one on the legislature. There was the bill that you may have heard about that would enable anybody in Texas to use their accessory dwelling unit for any reason. We couldn't regulate it at all. That did not.
It did not pass?
Did not.
I have one request to staff. It would be very helpful, in my opinion, if we have an aerial, and this is for engineering too, we have an aerial photograph, bird's eye view, from 16 to 290 along Friendship Lane. And I would like to have every piece of property identified as either private or what's on it, if it is under development, at what stage of completion they are at, whether it's been approved, if it has how many units, and whether it's condos, apartments, or whatever. Because he just blindsided some of us tonight with the one that was next to the mobile home park tonight, that we all have approved long ago and forgot about. And if we have that where we can see it, at least we know where we are. Because we've got so much approved up and down that corridor already, and we're having more all the time.
That seems to be the only place anybody wants to develop. That and Posto.
Well, and to be honest, him bringing these ended up being very helpful.
Well, for his case too.
Well, for his case, but then also for mine to remember that we had made McDonald move those buildings off of Eagle Street.
I would have reminded you, but I couldn't.
Yeah, but I think you make a good point. Maybe where we have a map and then we have copies of these things behind it, where you can see here's the site plans that we've already approved as a packet along here, so that when we get new stuff.
Well, especially.
I don't know if it's electronic or whatever, but I kind of see where he's going with this, where if we're looking at the map and we can pick a parcel and then
we can just
behind it, we can see what what did we already approve behind it, so that we know, because that was kind of blindsiding to realize that. And I almost used my past mistakes do not precedent make comment when he brought this up as precedent.
Is that, that's the Botanica? Okay. I won't be saying anything about that either. So here's, I'm going to make my comment about Friendship Lane and traffic. And my proposal is that we need to do something sooner rather than later about striping Friendship, to put a turn lane in, and maybe turn it into one eastbound lane, one westbound lane with a turn lane, because I think you understand how much is on the south side of that road, how many underground utilities. If we attempted to go in there and try to get some more right of way to get enough land to put a turn lane in the center, it's all too close. So, can of paint, 500 gallons of paint to stripe it. That it's fast. That people don't obey the speed limit as it is, and with all the development,
because
somebody.
It's 30.
No, it's not. Yeah,
It's 40.
It's 40. Yeah, but with
It
people.
should be 70.
My personal experience, when I try to go home, I never turn left on Friendship. I go down Highway Street and Eagle Street, so I can make a right turn into my driveway, and it's still dangerous. Yeah. Okay. So if we maybe think about that.
Do you have anything else?
Well,
No.
no, it's been a long night. Real quick.
No.
Just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate Anna.
Oh, yay.
Great job. Ask her, yes.
Yay.
Congratulations. Yay.
So I can drop you from all those Strongtown emails I'm sending? And the yeah.
I'm still involved.
Good.
Yay.
I hope we adjourn.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye? All opposed? Motion carries. Let's go home.
How long today?
Time is it?
I know. I just want to let you know.
3.5 hours. We were here 4:30, 3.5 hours.
I told Kurt not to expect it before you.
That's what I thought too. This
Well,
ended
see, that
quicker
way
than I
he
thought.
wants to be surprised when I get it.
Well, he be careful what you say.